Hello YouTube, this is Mars Gaming and welcome back to another Elder Scrolls Online build video. This is one of my new favorite builds, primarily used for soloing content, like hard mode dungeons and overland bosses. This build can be used with light armor and heavy armor. I prefer heavy armor because better better sustainability rather than resource regeneration and damage. You can still do a lot of damage in heavy armor compared to light armor, but light armor is better for resource regeneration and damage, mainly for the more advanced player. This setup can provide a lot of utility for a new player. You don't have to have the exact monster pieces, but I'm gonna show you some good suggestions. But first off, I'm gonna show you my gear and my consumables first, and then I'm gonna go through my stats. Then I'm gonna show you how I set up my bar, and I'm gonna show you the rotation that I used, and possibly the build in action. So first, you can go through the inventory at the top. I use a 5-piece Torch pact and 5-piece Torch pact, 1-piece Molekina, and 5-piece Silk of the Sun. This build is mainly a heavy and light attack weaving build. It's a lot of fire in this build. Like, the build is primarily made up of fire abilities. So instead of a sharpened weapon for more penetration, I decided on Nirnhorn for more damage. Since I'm doing light and heavy attack weaving, I didn't need a whole lot of penetration. The build would do a lot more damage off of penetration, but I prefer to go with Nirnhorn since I use a lot of spell damage, and I can still get more flame damage from my abilities. Like I said, I decided to go with Nirnhorn because Nirnhorn seems to be better for a spell-based caster, well, a spell-based build. Plus, I use an infused sword on my second hand for faster procs on the flame damage. It's basically it's a lot of heavy attacks and a lot light attack weaving in with spells. You'll see. I'll show you the rotation soon enough. I run a restoration staff of Torug's pact for the extra healing and spell damage. The spell damage is almost consistent with there's literally no cooldown for this. There's literally no cooldown for the spell damage and the weapon damage, which is really great. Torug's pact really makes this whole setup shine. The cooldowns on the enchants are like almost non-existent. Okay, I run on the big pieces, I run reinforced, while on the small pieces I run the best in slot is pretty much sturdy. On the small pieces, I didn't have time to get sturdy gloves, so I already had these, so I just stuck with them, and it still works fine for when I have to block. I don't have to block too much. I really don't block at all, but only when there's a hard-hitting mechanic. That's the only time I need to block. I run 3 stamina glyphs on the big pieces and magicka glyphs on the small pieces. No, actually I only run 1 stamina. Or 2 stamina? Yeah, 2 stamina on the big pieces and magicka on the small pieces. Yes, okay. Molekina. I like Molekina a lot, but you can run something else like what is it called? Slime Crawl? I think it's Slime Crawl because it's getting a buff, or no, it's getting that health recovery changed to spell crit and weapon crit, as well as the Ice Heart pauldrons, I think. For what dungeon is that? Dire Frost Keep. Those pauldrons, they also give spell crit and spell damage. I mean, spell crit and weapon crit. So those would also be good since they'd help proc the flame damage. Well, it would cause the flame damage to crit is what I'm saying. That's what I meant to say. It would cause the flame damage to crit a little bit higher, but I'll go over the damage later. On my jewelry, I run all spell damage. I'm planning to remove one of the spell damages a little later to do some testing with it some more. I plan on updating this build at least 2 or 3 more times later for later patches. I want to make this the best build possible, but for now I feel like this build is really strong. I'm planning to the enchant I'm planning on putting on here is reduce cost for reduce spell cost, just to make sure I can cast all my abilities with ease and sustain a little bit faster. Going into slaughterables, what I prefer to use is the Tristat food and the Lusty Argonian mates, so I can get most of my resource pools back in a boss fight. This is mainly what this is for, but I primarily, when I start the boss fight, I'll keep this on, but when I start to lose resources, when they just not regenerating fast enough, I'll switch to the Lusty Argonian mates. You have lower pools, but you'll have high recovery. It makes you kind of more vulnerable, but you're really tanky, so it's not that bad. The potions that I primarily use is you can use trash pots on this build, because the way I've set up the champion points, you get a free spell cast after you use a potion, which is always good. You can use that for Green Dragon's Blood or Healing Ward to keep you alive. But primarily I use Tristat potions. Tristat potions pretty much are optimal for solo play because they give you all your pools back. And one of my new favorites is the Essence of Health. The Essence of Health paired with the lingering over time healing effect. It's a pretty high health regeneration. It's really like Rally, and that paired with draconic passives and your heavy armor is quite good. It gives you a lot of healing received. I sometimes use the Essence of Invisibility with the lingering health just to get past mobs or evade certain enemies. It comes in handy every once in a while. Getting onto stats, I put 39 to Magicka, 16 into health, 9 into stamina. You don't really use stamina abilities on this build. You only have that 9 for CC breaking. Even though you have I would use dual stat food for like Magicka and health, but you lose way too much stamina. And even though you're heavy attacking a lot and not using a whole lot of stamina, you still have to be concerned about break free. Break free is still a percentage amount of your actual stamina, so you have to have a decent stamina pool. I have about 24,000 Magicka, 22,000 health, and 18k stamina with 600 magic recovery, 460 health recovery, and 514 stamina recovery. My spell damage is at 2613 currently. I can buff all my abilities and then proc the enchant on my back bar, which gives me about 4,015 magic damage to heavy armor, I believe, and about 2,600 weapon damage on my weapon. 2,600 weapon damage, which is good for a little bit more damage for when I'm heavy and light attack weaving. I'll go into the skills. I'm gonna start with my back bar. Let me explain the back bar first. Well, this is my back bar. This is basically an AoE and damaging and healing bar. I'm gonna start with igneous weapons. This is my main source of damage. So igneous weapons gives me major sorcery and major brutality and spell damage. It gives me major brutality and minor brutality for my front bar. I'll get into that in a minute, but that just increases my weapon and spell damage. I use volatile armor for the major and minor resolve and ward, which increases my resistance as well as damage over time, and like whenever I get hit, I cause damage, which will increase. The damage will also increase based on my spell damage, which you'll see later. I'm gonna draw essence as my main heal. Well, not my main heal, but it's kind of my main lifeline as well as my main damaging when there's a lot of mobs on me. But I'll get into that in a minute. And one of my main heals is Green Dragon's Blood and Healing Ward. These two paired together are really good. And I run Magma Shell just when I need all my resources back. And I literally can't sustain at all. I'll pop this. This is mainly when I really can't sustain anything. And my front bar, I run hold on. I run choking talons I prefer having the minor main. That's why I run choking talons. I don't need burning talons because I don't block almost at all on this build. There's very few times where I actually try to block. That's only when I see a heavy hitting mechanic coming at me. When enemies are just heavy attacking me, that's the only time I'm block. I run engulfing flames for extra flame damage. I could run the other one for reducing physical resistance, but I don't need it since this is a spell-based build, and I get enough I still get enough flame damage off of the weapon enchants. The highest I think the weapon enchants actually crit is about almost 9k. The highest I've seen is about yeah, it's been close to 9k crits. Once engulfing flames has been used, I use flame of oblivion for basically for the major prophecy and major savagery for the extra crit. Burning embers is pretty much your rally for your heal, and flame lash is your single target, as well as ferocious leap is for CC, mainly CC and a lot of damage. With ferocious leap, I think the highest I've gotten on this build is like 26k, but that was in light armor. I can get in heavy armor, I can get to about 25k, but everything has to be all my spell damage has to be at its highest for that to happen, or I just get lucky and crit. But this bar is mainly for single target. I'm gonna go back to this bar, talk about the passives. Ardent Flame passives, they're mainly for elongating the Ardent Flame abilities on my front bar. This bar uses a lot of Ardent Flame abilities, and as well as a lot of fire abilities, so it just elongates it and makes the fire abilities somewhat stronger, and also makes this stronger as well, since my ferocious leap does fire damage. Draconic passives are a lot more important since they give you the extra block mitigation, health recovery, and the spell resistance. Most importantly is the Burning Heart passive. Burning Heart is the best passive I think in this game, because it allows you to solo so much content from almost not even trying. What I mean by that is this bar. If the game doesn't lag, or if I'm not having any issues with connection, which sometimes I do for reasons I'm not going to get into, I won't die on this bar, especially if there's a lot of enemies on me. If there's even three or four enemies on me, good. I'm not gonna die. All I need to do is keep my I don't even need to keep igneous weapons up. All I need to do is keep volatile armor and green dragon blood up, and just pop draw essence. Because draw essence, it inhales 100% of the damage caused. Plus, it's a draconic passive, draconic power passive. So that's 12% of healing received. And if I keep volatile armor and green dragon blood up, that's 12 plus 12, 24, plus another 12, 36. And then I'm heavy attacking with a restoration staff, which gives me minor maim. I mean, not minor maim, minor mending, which is 25%. And then I get the extra spell power, so it just increases the damage. So so when you think about it, I'm increasing the amount of damage I'm dealing, as well as increasing my healing received. So it goes from 100% to about 175% of the damage caused. So that's almost twice as much of the damage. It's almost twice as much of the healing of the damage that you're doing. I've gotten almost like 4,000 healing off of one enemy. This one enemy, and plus the exhale, the draw essence I can do once I hit an enemy with engulfing flames, because it increases the damage done by 10%. It almost goes to about 11k. I hit about 8 to 10k each time I use it. But once I use engulfing flames and hit it and use my restoration staff, because while I'm doing draw essence, I'm also doing heavy attacks in between the draw essence. So when the flame damage comes, I do extra damage on the back end. So it does a lot of damage. This is pretty much your lifeline when it's a lot of mobs. You'll pretty much survive through almost everything on this bar. The front bar is mainly used for single target. This bar, you're going to be on this bar a lot, so get used to it. I'll show you how to use this bar properly. Now let's continue on to Earthen Heart. Earthen Heart, pretty simple. I only use one Earthen Heart ability on this build. well, two magma shell and igneous weapons. Oh, look, a magma shell. I forgot to go over magma shell. It's pretty simple. It's pretty much your oh crap button. You pretty much survive through everything. You get a crazy amount of health. Well, you get a crazy amount of damage mitigation. You'll pretty much survive through pretty much anything for 10 seconds. If you ever play Final Fantasy, it's basically the equivalent of it's similar to the equivalent of a paladin. Paladin's ability, I forgot what it's called, but it makes you immortal for about 10 seconds. That's basically what that is. Earth and Heart abilities, and this basically increases your duration. Battle Roar. This build will not work without Battle Roar. You need sustain. The only thing this build really lacks right now is kind of a constant sustain, since I don't use a lot of light armor. But 2 pieces of light armor is enough for recovery. I'll get into that in a minute. Battle Roar, anytime you cast an ultimate, you restore 46 health, magicka, and stamina for each point of the ultimate cost. This is very important for every single Dragon Knight build out there. You cannot survive without Battle Roar. You will die every single time. Mountain's Blessing, basically that minor brutality, and it's for the whole group. But since you're soloing most of the time with this build, it's a pretty consistent for you. And you gain 3 ultimate every 6 seconds every time you use one, which is great. So you can pop Magma Shell and still get an extra 3 ultimate. And Helping Hands to get stamina back. This is also very important because you're not using chains. You don't really need to use chains. And this is also very good primarily for kiting enemies. Since there are a lot of casters and a lot of ranged DPS in this game, what I primarily do is I'll get the attention of a few of the enemies, and once the casters get on me, I'll pull them all the way down to a hallway to make sure they're on me. I'll switch to my front bar, root them all down, use my engulfing flames to get more fire damage, make sure all my buffs are up, and then start using draw essence. Moving on to dual wield, I'm still testing the passives for dual wield to see if they have any serious effects for my magic abilities and my heavy attacks. I'm pretty sure some of them kind of work. I still have to do testing on those, so I'm not going to say anything on that yet. Here I only use Healing Ward for basically just a shield. It's my only damage shield that I use, and that's only for when I really need a really quick heal. I'll pop that first and then pop Green Dragon's Blood. You can do it in reverse, but you don't get that damage mitigation from the shield, so it's better to pop the shield first. I don't have all the passives done, but really the most important one is this one. This one is the most important one, since you pretty much get all the healing received from your draconic passive abilities, but you should probably get all of them, especially this one. This one will just boost it even further. You don't even have to use a restoration staff. Well, you don't have to use a restoration staff ability. Just having one equipped will even increase the amount of healing you get from your draconic passives, which is really great. Going down to light armor, you can do this build in light armor, but from experience, if you're not an experienced player, light armor, don't do it, because you will die. You'll get a lot more damage, and pretty much light armor would make the damage much more balanced, especially for your whips. Your whips will crit almost for like 15 to almost 16k with engulfing flames. You don't even need talons on them. And your draw essence will hit about almost 13k if you're lucky. If you're lucky and have enough crit, I don't think I have enough crit, but when I ran the numbers, it can hit almost 16k. With a lot of spell penetration, that'll be great. Oh, and I wasn't using any spell crit on that while I was testing with light armor, but still, it's very, very strong in light armor. I'm learning how to sustain with light armor, but light armor, you have to be very tidy. You can still be kind of tanky with the champion points of light armor, but I prefer heavy armor. I used a 2-piece light armor for that 8% recovery. I use 2-piece for that 4% reduced cost, and a little bit more spell resistance. Oh, the spell resistance I have on this build, let me go ahead and show you. It's let me go back to the character sheet. Okay, right here, spell resistance at 22 and physical resistance at 19,000. Get a little bit more. I might try and build it closer to cap. You don't really need too much. You should be good enough on physical resistance, and your damage mitigation should be pretty good. Let's keep going. Heavy armor. Heavy armor is pretty important for this setup. pretty much for the increased armor and spell resistance. The health and recovery is good since it pairs pretty well with the Nordic passives, as well as the Constitution passive. So pretty much the Constitution passives, every time you get hit, you get resources back, but it has a 4-second cooldown, which is almost negligible. This Juggernaut increases your max health by 2% per piece of heavy armor equipped. Wrath, one of the more important skills. Pretty much when you're on this bar, Wrath is just going to stack. You keep igneous weapons up, keep your volatile armor and green dragon blood up, and then just draw essence while doing heavy attacks. You're pulling off about 4,000. You have about 4,016 spell damage at your disposal. You're pretty much going to deal damage and just heal completely every single time. When worst comes to worst, you can prop a healing ward and then a green dragon's blood, and you're not going to die. You're literally not going to die. It's not going to happen. Especially if there's a lot of enemies on you. And like I said before, you're not going to lose any magicka either, because you're dealing heavy attacks as well as hitting draw essence, and the second draw essence deals damage. If it does damage to about 8 enemies, you're getting 80% of your magic back. And that almost doesn't matter, since it's rapid mending comes into play at that point. If you're doing heavy attacks, increases the healing received by 8%, which is also a plus, so it's a ridiculous amount of healing. And the really important one is increase the magic or stamina your heavy attacks restored by 20%. This also is paired with a restoration staff very well, because Cycle of Life restores an additional 30% when you complete a heavy attack. That is what, 55% magicka restored? Yeah, 55%. It's 55% restored. Legerdemain, not too important. Soul magic. For future reference, I might try this, since you do get down below 20 a lot. That does happen. I'm thinking of adding Soul Shadow to this build, but later. I plan on doing that later. Fighters Guild. In my last video, I said I wasn't going to use this. I lied. Fighters Guild is very important. Mainly the passives is what I want, and maybe Dawnbreaker of Smiting for the extra 5% in weapon damage. I want to deal a little bit more weapon damage, and if I do get it, I'm going to put it where Magma Shell is, because I don't think I don't really build up to Magma Shell all the time. I'm pretty much fine. I don't feel like I need Magma Shell, but I do feel like I want to deal a little bit more damage. I'm pretty much going to get Slayer and Banish the Wicked, as well as Skilled Tracker, just for the extra damage in dungeons against undead and danger and stuff like that. Mages Guild, I'm also working towards getting to all the passives. All the passives need to be gotten on this build. I don't really feel like I need Mage Light. I'm happy without getting Mage Light, but I do want to get Entropy for the morphs. If I get Entropy, I'm taking it and putting it where Igneous Weapons is, because even though it gives me minor and major brutality, it's only to buff my front bar for the heavy and light attack weaves, but it's kind of negligible. It's kind of negligible. I still prefer having it, but it's still negligible. I would like Entropy because the morphs, you have the option of increasing, the morphs give you the option of increasing your health by either 5% or increases or heals you on heavy attack, or it has a chance to heal you for 15% of your heavy attack damage, so which is also very good, which will make this build twice as tanky, since I do heavy attacks on both bars. And an extra 113% it just increases the survivability of this build. Plus there's also Might of the Guild, which gives you an empower. Once you max this ability out, it'll give you a it's not going to be a chance, it's going to be 100% chance, so you'll get empower almost every time you use that ability. So the empower plus that, it's just good. It's just all good. And plus it gives you increased reduced cost, increase the duration, and increased magicka, max magicka and magicka recovery. What, by 2%, which is not too much, but not too bad either. Undaunted, you want to max out your Undaunted rank so you can get to this. This is what you want. metal. Since only use 2 pieces, it'll increase to 4% once you max that out. So it'll be about 900 in each pool, I believe. It's about 900 or close to 1,000. I can't remember. Next is you could use vigor, but I'm not going to get into that. This is mainly for PvE. I haven't designed this build for PvP yet. It has some utility in PvP, but I'm not gonna go into that right now. It's still in the prototype phase. Nordic skills. These are very important since it gives you increased recovery as well as max stam, increased cold and health, and rugged is one of the more important ones. Rugged, if you can finish this first, do it. Reduce damage taken by 6%. It's pretty much all types of damage, which is good. And I'll show you my champion points. I increased this actually. I'm gonna show you that in the champion points later. And the last skill you really want to have is medicinal use to make those potions last longer. That's a given. If you can keep those potions last longer, recovery pretty much constant. I think that's it for the abilities. Now to go over the rotation. If it's the front bar, oh, got a guildmate here. We go over here. On the front, on this bar, I buff up igneous weapons, and then green dragon's blood. I'll hit that once, and then keep going here, and then keep just heavy attacking, and then draw essence again, then heavy attack again, and then engulfing flames, just to do more damage on those draw essence. 2k, 4k. It's not critting all that much right now. There we go. There we go. There we go. Just keep doing that over and over. Another one. Another draw essence. This is pretty much how you survive every single time. Magicka doesn't really dip all that much. You pretty much burn down enemies, and once they're hitting you, it does way more damage. And the build, I'm planning on adding a lot more penetration on this build, but I'm still doing testing on that. So I'm gonna update the build in the future for that. For my front bar, I'm gonna show you the rotation. I usually like to have all my buffs up. I go in heavy attack, then engulfing flames, then talons, then slash, then heavy, and whip again. I tend to deal with like 2 or 3 whips, then heavy attack, the flames of oblivion, then another heavy attack on my back bar, and then go into dragon leap, the whip, engulfing flames, heavy attack, light attack, whip, talons to reduce the boss's damage, and then back into that. It's basically constantly dealing damage over and over. Heavy attacks, a lot of heavy attacking. Oh, you want to switch around with this bar a lot because you want to make sure your buffs are up. If your buffs stay up, you're going to do a lot of damage. Okay, I'm going to go over my champion points real quick. I'm going to start in the steed tree. Here, I'm going with 31 in ironclad and 11 in resistant. Resistant was for PvP when I was doing PvP testing, so that's not too important right now. Ironclad is the same as the Nordic passive that reduces all incoming damage. So I kind of boosted it to about 19%. 20% is what I want to get to in total, so I'm going to get it just 1% more upwards. This tree, I reduced the points in Hardy for now and Elemental Defender. Still doing testing with this. I kind of feel like this is fine right here. This feels fine to me. I'm not worried about thick skin too much because the dots are still kind of negligible in dungeons. Bastion for that healing ward, quick recovery for even more increased healing received, and heavy armor. So I'm not using sword and shield. I think I want to get to about 42 in heavy armor, just for a little bit more, but this is fine for now. I want to have at least 20k physical resistance without using any buffs. For my tower tree, 31 in warlord for breaking free easier. 12 in tenacity since I do a lot of heavy attacks. 43 in arcanist for mainly magic recovery. Magic recovery, I want to get that a little bit higher. I want at least 11%. At least 11%, maybe 12%. Tumbling, 18 in tumbling, and 57 in shadow ward, mainly for when I need to block so I don't consume too much stamina. It's a good thing they don't use any stamina based abilities, so I might reduce that and put that somewhere else here. But I prefer having 75 in the thief for the treasure hunter passive. I like to sell a lot of items. And for here, 18 in Elfborn, 64 in Elemental Expert. I'm planning on boosting this up to maybe 14%, and 31 in Spell Erosion. Or actually, instead of that, I might put the rest of those points in Spell Erosion. I want to get to a total of about 3,500 Spell Erosion, maybe a little bit higher if I so choose. Really, light armor will be best for this because it stacks really well with light armor, and I wouldn't have to worry about any more spell penetration at that point because it offers so much already. I have 48 in Master at Arms. I don't put anything in these because they don't really help all that much, and nothing in there, and that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Oh, also, I wanted to apologize about the noises in the background and like the gurgling sound. I was scratching my ear and my mic was having issues with that. But anyway, thanks again for watching the video. I'm gonna have a short clip after this, and I hope you enjoy the rest of it. Have a great one. Please, if I die, do not hold it against the build. It's just the light armor. I'm not the best at light armor. Okay, please don't kill me on the first go. No heavy attacks. I got died immediately. This boss, you really need to worry about the caster. Like to pull him back here. Do a few whips. Armor's down. Okay, give me that back, please. Okay. Might need a little extra resource gen. He likes to block, so be careful. Oh, don't get hit by that. You probably will die. It's like that does like 10k. You gotta be really careful with this guy because he does those. He does those. Don't get too far away from this door. Okay, I need some more magic back. He blocks when you try and cast that too. But I got tripods. Haha. Okay, there we go. No. You're not gonna kill me that easily. Just reduces damage just a little bit. Oh, he's down. Good. You're next. Get some of this stamina back. You see, I wasn't lying about those high crits. But you don't want to get your armor down too much. You always want to try and keep your armor up, because you need that up. That's it. That extra recovery I was talking about. Okay, let me hit you again real quick. There we go. There we go. Probably gonna bring her towards the boss so I can use my back bar a little bit more. Hit a tripod real quick. Don't do that. Yeah, light armor does way more damage. It's honestly, I feel like it's way better. It's a significantly better option if you know how to survive. But in dungeons, I mean, like the enemies, most of the enemies are going to be doing as much damage as these bosses, since these are just overland bosses. Good, you're right there. That's what I wanted you. Try and get this finished up. Minor maim. Oh, just get those resources back. Damn, I just exploded on her ass. No! Oh, that hurt. It didn't hurt that much. And see, you see, I'm kind of skilled with light armor. I'm a little skilled. Not bad for a new with light armor on for the first few times. I'm practicing for a few days. Not that bad. Not that bad. All right, let's get it going. Mega one, heavy attack. Yeah, that like I didn't even have flames with igneous weapons up, and still did like 23k crits. It's pretty damn good. Oblivion almost hits for like 10k. Wait a second, please. And the boss is down. Watch me not get any soaks of the suns. I bet it's gonna be shock again. I called it though. Called it. That was close. It was close. Well, guys, that's the build in hand. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great one. 16k, I wasn't lying. I wasn't like I said 16k, I was not lying about that 16k whip. What about